And I truly enjoy this opportunity of coming together and just talking with other authors and writers on various topics and circumstances and issues that actually beat down on a writer's life. Most of the time, we go through struggles and strives as being a beginner in being writing. I wrote 4 books. I have a total of notes, over 20 books of notes that I have not put together into a book. And a lot of times is I get all of my information and all of my wording from God. In my prayer life, I get something from God in my worship, in my fasting, and getting on my face and prostrate myself, even separating myself from different places and times and people and medias and all these different types of things. I separate myself from TV at times to hear from God. And what God has given me is a gathering of the gifted. That we are gifted when we hear from God. We are gifted, in different areas and times when we hear from God. Because God is right there in the midst of us. And if we allow, as being a Christian writer, if you're not a Christian writer, you may not really understand where I'm coming from. If you're not a believer, you may not understand where I'm coming from. But God gives us writing. There is a lot of power behind the writing. God will give us things that we will never have ever experienced before in our lives. It's all about getting in the face of God. And it's called power behind the writing. Power behind the writing means that we can engage in different areas of life by hearing from God. And I know if being a novelist, on writing Christian, it's very tough. Because not only that you're digging into your life, is that you're allowing God to pour things into your life. You are actually sharing your testimony. You are actually sharing your testimonies. You're sharing the things that God gives you. And you're giving it to someone else. It's like God gives us an action. And in the midst of that action, He pours into what He wants to pour into it. And as we tell what took place in that action, it becomes a testimony. And when it becomes a testimony, it gets into the lives of them that hear it. Okay, I've been through this. Yes, I've been through this. I've been through the same thing you're going through. Now that if God can see you out, then He can see me out of it. A lot of times when I go into my writing, I have to take some things out of my life. If it has to be the TV, if it has to be my cell phone, if it has to be social media, if it has to be different people, I have to remove certain things so I can hear from God in certain areas. Because what I want to hear is a sound from God. You feel what I'm saying? I want to hear a sound from God. I want to hear kingdom sound. See, some people really don't understand when you talk about kingdom sound. Because there's so much that fall under kingdom sound. It's just like carrying the image of Christ on you. You can see the sound. And sometimes there is a sound that comes from being spiritually minded. That means you can hear the thoughts that God places in your mind for the kingdom. And there is also what I call being in a place of posterity, of being on your face to hear from God. Even closing your eyes into a meditative state, you can hear from God. And the reason why I'm calling it that God has given me to call the gathering of the gifted is that you are gifted in your writing, but you are gathering the things to write from God. Because some people may say, okay, this is all about me, I did it myself. But no, your success comes from the testimonies that God has placed in your life. The success in your life comes from the action that God gives you to bring forth a testimony in your life. And I pray that you understand what I'm saying. I'm talking about the gifted. I'm talking about the Christian writers. Because it's so important to hear from God. If you look throughout the Bible, throughout the scriptures, everyone that wrote a book heard from God, influenced by God.